can then have a discussion and try to see how this tool is really helping implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. I do belong to the people that they say we need numbers behind achievements, and I think that one of the main objectives of indexes is to put these numbers behind. But my understanding is also that the entire process is not that India has put together is not only quantitative, does not have quantitative elements, but also very well qualitative elements. So, to kick off the discussion, I will ask Ms. Sanyukta Samaddar, SDGs advisor in the Niti Aayog in the government of India, to introduce to us the SDG India Index.
Thank you, Stefanos. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants. I will briefly take you through the SDG India Index, which is one of the most comprehensive and unique tools which India and Niti Aayog have developed to measure the progress that the country is making, particularly at the subnational levels, towards the 169 SDG targets, both with a quantitative aspect and, as Stefanos had said, build in a qualitative aspect as well. So I will not delve much into this, but as Madam Ambassador had pointed out, as Madam Executive Secretary had pointed out, India has taken a formidable lead, a leading role in particularly in formalizing the entire Agenda 2030, both during the stage of negotiations prior to 2015 and after that during the entire course of localizing and implementing the SDGs. The results are 271 million of our population had been lifted out of poverty, especially belonging to the base of the pyramid categories, and this has led to halving of half of the multidimensional poverty index between the years 2006 to 2016. India, one of the 7th largest economies and also projected to become one of the largest and fastest growing economies in the world, has 18%, 1/6 of the humanity residing in 2.3% of land mass. So this, you can imagine, itself leads to developmental challenges of such mammoth scale that we need to think of innovative ways of devising solutions for engaging this entire 1/6 of the humanity in the developmental process. As our Prime Minister had pointed out in the first SDG summit in 2015, that India achieving the SDGs will hold a key to the world achieving the SDGs, primarily focuses on this important commitment that India had given towards the Agenda 2030. So this is just a snapshot of how we have dovetailed our entire national development agenda, aligned it to the 17 goals, to the Agenda 2030, the entire subject, in a sense that the national development agenda now mirrors the SDGs. So as has already been pointed out, I will not go into the details because of the time, the paucity. There have been, these are just a sampler of the massive developmental schemes and programs that are being run in order to give an accelerated push to the agenda for the 1.33 billion population of the country. So we have the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which is the Ayushman Bharat, the world's largest health protection scheme, which aims to cover 500 million population with insurance, medical insurance cover up to half a million rupees, and with medical treatment through 150,000 health and wellness centers spread over the entire country. Poshan Abhiyan, Madam had already spoken about it. I will not go into the details. We have a massive comprehensive climate change program, which is also spearheading, and India is also spearheading the International Solar Alliance. The Climate Action Program and our NDCs, which are on track, are obviously based on a whole set of programs which talk about providing clean cooking fuel, about raising the basket of renewable energy in our entire energy share. Apart from the entire climate action, I would like to focus on two specific initiatives, the Gram Swaraj Abhiyan and the aspirational district program, which is being spearheaded by Niti Aayog. This is a targeted approach towards achieving the SDGs and the SDG targets in the most backward regions of the country. So in aspirational districts program, we've identified 112 districts spreading across the entire country, which are backward compared to their peers, particularly in 49 indicators and in the areas of health, education, nutrition, agriculture, employment, and growth and industry. Apart from this, the Gram Swaraj Abhiyan also, it targets the achievement of SDGs in a very focused manner in 27,000 villages in the country, which are again lagging behind their counterparts. Well, the less said about the JAM Trinity, the better. This is the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. This trinity comprising of creating a biometric identity for 90% of the 1.3 billion population, giving them internet and mobile penetration, and also banking inclusion. So these are some of the programs. Now these programs, why I am highlighting here is that India has become, with its developmental challenges, it has become a playground to evolve and innovate solutions which will address these problems, and these are the problems which are plaguing not merely the country of India, but as a whole, this entire region of Asia, Pacific and Sub-Saharan Africa. So if these are the common problems of the region, these solutions could be replicated and could provide a useful lens for localizing SDGs in the rest of the world. Well, Niti Aayog is the organization in India which is entrusted with the responsibility of overseeing the entire implementation and supervision and monitoring of SDGs. Because India is a federal country with 29 states and 7 union territories, the task becomes even more challenging, especially because it is the subnational governments who have to drive the implementation in most of these areas of SDGs. So while we provide a coordination scheme, we have aligned our developmental programs with the SDGs so that any mid-course correction which is required in this entire trajectory, the journey towards 2030, could be done. We are always engaging. Our entire way of working is through an engagement process with the subnational governments, in order to not only build institutions, but to build capacity, but to build knowledge, and also provide a monitoring and supervision framework for evaluating what has been the progress so far. So as you can see, I have mentioned some of the things that we've done. We have rolled out the National Indicator Framework, which is a huge framework with 306 indicators spanning over the 17 goals. Apart from that, we have also developed the the SDG India Index and the dashboard, which I will just move on to. So why this is important for a federal country like India is that the states and the union territories become the drivers of change, become the drivers in the entire Agenda 2030. And this can be done by 4 ways of how we are able to build institutions. Now, building institutions in states is a challenging task because already there is a set of institutions and there is a not so good momentum. So this has been done through a process of engagement, through a process of hand-holding, in terms of developing structures and institutions, not only at the central level, but also at the state capital, moving down to the districts, which are smaller units, and then going down to further down to the grassroots level at the panchayats and the urban local bodies. So you see there is a vertical build-up of structures which are intended to bring in vertical policy coherence from a top-down to a bottom-up approach. At the same time, there are also institutions which have been built in order to provide a more horizontal policy coherence. This is why it is important, is that the SDGs are not merely sectoral. They cannot be dealt with in silos, and because of their interconnections and their counter-influences, their matrix-like interconnections, a whole lot of horizontal policy coherence cutting across different sectors, different ministries, and different organs of the government, moving over to the civil society organizations and international organizations. This kind of coherence is very much required. Apart from institutional mechanisms, I have stated the way the percentage of states and union territories which have developed these structures at the district level, at the level of the chief secretaries and the chief ministers, in order to give a push and a review, a high-level focus into it. Monitoring, almost all states have developed their monitoring network, and we are working with the states so that the states can customize the indicators to build their own specific indicators, and also their monitoring frameworks and their dashboards. Moving on to the dashboard, which is the key most important thing in this presentation. So the SDG India Index and the dashboard was developed in 2018 through an extremely consultative process. This is the first time a country of the scale of India has developed an index to measure all the different aspects of SDGs, the social, the economic, the environmental, and the institutional, and also the individual goals, but also at the subnational level. So you will realize that developing an index for the subnational level is one of the biggest challenges we face today, because of one of the reasons is that the lack of disaggregated data and the lack of reliable data from the subnational governments. However, we have managed to do it, and we are still in the process of refining it as we come up with the second report. So this particular index, it does a goal-wise ranking of the different states and the union territories, and it also does a composite ranking in terms of all the SDG goals together. Obviously, the advantages are immense. As you can see, it becomes an advocacy tool. It becomes a tool to trigger action in the SDGs where states require to focus attention and resources. It also becomes a tool for enabling the states and the union territories to learn from the best of their peers. It encourages peer learning and also benchmark best practices. So I will take you to the dashboard. It will be a little more interesting than the presentation. So this is all available in the public domain, and it's available to everybody, to policy researchers, to students, to policy makers, to business, in order to channelize their investments. So this, you can see, is the main page, and if I check on, let's say, goal 3, this is a little interactive, so I can just, so if you see that goal 3, education, good health and well-being. So there are these categories. Achievers are blue in terms of those who have already achieved it, which is a 100 score. Front runners from 50 to 99. Performers, less than that. Aspirants, again, 0 to 49. This is just a demonstrative thing that this is how the ranking of the states and the union territories have been done. And then again, it's a data heavy kind of a work. So it has the indicators, the datas, and the normalized scores. What is interesting here would be to see the states page. So if I am a policy maker, if I am the chief secretary of a particular state, what would I like to see in terms of where my state stands in different SDGs, and how do I compare with my neighboring state? So that is what it incites a spirit of competition, and that is what we think that SDGs would actually become a policy focus if we are able to encourage competition within our constituents. So this is the state of Andhra Pradesh, and as you can see, the target is the 100, the outer circle, and you can see from the shape of the pies as to what is the distance to the target. Now, if I would like to compare the state of Andhra Pradesh with, say, let's say the state of Bihar. So you can see now a policymaker sitting in the state of Bihar would realize, oh, I am pretty much not as progressive as the state of Andhra Pradesh. So this kind of gives an impression, and also it highlights which are the areas in which the state may need to focus a lot more. So Bihar, you can see, I'm pointing it out to gender equality. So Bihar is not so progressive in the goal of gender equality, then effective policy corrections need to be taken.
Time, madam.
So the methodology is it's a heavily statistical methodology which involves choosing of indicators. We have indicators to the extent of around 65, spanning over 14 goals. We could not get data for some of the goals, and again, this highlights one of the major data gaps in not only in the country but similarly in many countries, I'm sure. The data, raw data, obviously needs to be rescaled and normalized between a score of 0 to 100, 100 depicting achieving the target, and the lower the score is lesser than the target. Weightage has been given equal because each of the SDGs are integral and indivisible part of the whole. So we could not differentiate between one goal and the other. So weightage has been given equal. We've computed the individual goal score for every state and then the composite scores. This is an overview of how the SDGs stand for the country. So India's index score overall SDG wise is right in front of you. As you can see, the red ones are the cause of concern. I'll go into the next slides. And a score of 50, the midline shows that we are on track and we are moving towards the achievement of the goals within the given period. So this is again a snapshot of how the states and the union territories are faring rank-wise, as you can see. Now most of the chunk of our Indian states are in the mid-level category of performers, which is not a cause of concern. But the two big states, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, which as many Indians would know, it constitutes like half of the population or 1/3 of the population, are right in the bottom red area. Again, a graphical representation. Now goals on track. I'll move on to this. Goals on track, SDG 8. This shows the percentage of states which are in the front runner category, having achieved a score of 65 to 99.
Your time, madam.
This is the index. If I
understand,
I'll just wrap it up.
You have taken 18 minutes out of the 20
I'll wrap it up. I can go into the details and the questions if there are any. So this entire report is also on data analytics as to which are the goals and what are the trends. Are we improving? Are we going behind? Has the rate of growth or the rate of increase improved over the years? So these are the goals on track. Some of the goals which demand attention are very similar to, I think, the entire region. Goal 2, nutrition. Goal 5, gender equality. A lot is said, but a lot more needs to be done. SDG 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and 11, urban habitation. So the outcomes are very clearly, there has been a huge amount of awareness among the policymakers, in the states. It has led to a lot of competition. And obviously this entire thing leads to the fact that how we are able to replicate these monitoring and evaluation frameworks into more evidence-based policymaking, into creating an environment of competition among our constituents. I'll end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive methodology and index, and I think you will have a lot of questions even after the end of this side event, and be ready to answer them. I would like to ask Mr. Rasnes, which is the Joint Secretary of the Department of Commerce of Government of India. Trade is one of